We are live. I'd like to welcome everyone to another episode of Heart to Heart with Bree. Tonight's guest is Coach Andrew Edwards. Would you please introduce yourself to the viewers?
Good evening, and thank you very much, Bria. And good afternoon, good evening, good morning to the viewers wherever you are in the world. Um, as Bree said, my name is Andrew Edwards. I'm a native of Port Antonio, Portland, past student of Titchfield High School. Went to the University of the West Indies, case, and did a short study in Germany as well at the University of Leipzig. Been a football coach since 2001 full time, but I started in 1996 my first time. And currently, I own and operate my own football academy alongside my wife and a few good friends, Genesis Football Academy in Mandeville, where I now reside.
Wonderful. Welcome, Andrew, and thank you so much for agreeing to be a guest tonight. So, I have to ask you, first of all, why did you establish the Genesis Football Academy?
There are a number of reasons. I like to think that top of the line is because of my own kids, especially Amari. He's only 12 years old now, but from he was able to walk, he seemed to have always had this passion for football. Maybe one evening you should talk to him to just pick his brain about football and his
I would love
knowledge.
to.
You know, but outside of that, as a rural boy growing up in Port Antonio, Portland, there were a lot of opportunities that we didn't have that kids in Kingston have had and continue to have today. And when I moved from Port Antonio, I actually started living in St. Elizabeth, and then I moved to Mandeville, and it's pretty much the same thing. So you want to access some kind of developmental opportunities for kids, you always have to go into Kingston for it. So I thought, based on my experience working for the Jamaica Football Federation as coach of the under 17 men team and the under 20s, I got the opportunity to travel to different parts of the world, and I saw things that I thought could be adapted here in Jamaica. And then, of course, there are other football academies that were operating before we started in 2016. So I tried to pick the best of everything and see how best we could create something similar to provide the same kind of opportunities for kids in Mandeville proper. But our strategic development plan actually incorporates the three central parishes of Clarendon, Manchester, and St. Elizabeth. So over the years, we have always had kids coming into us from all of these parishes. Sometimes they are with us for, over a year, 2 years. But the further away they are from, the more difficult it is for them to continue to come on a regular basis.
Okay. I'd like to welcome my friend Mikey Go. Thank you for tuning in, Mikey. And for the viewers out there, feel free to post your questions and comments. So I have to ask next, is the Academy a full-time program?
Full time is, I think, a bit relative. We operate Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays
Okay.
with training, but outside of the training, it's a full time undertaking. To continue to plan and prepare and try to improve personally and as well the academy. And to try to make sure that all the resources that we need are in place as best as possible, which is an overwhelming task, quite frankly. But we do it because we believe it's a part of our purpose, and we know that we are affecting lives in a very positive and impactful way.
Yes. What is the age group of the students?
So we our youngest kids would normally start out with us as young as 4 years old. And then we take them through to 17, 18 years old, those who stay with us that long. Usually the larger groups are between, say, 9 and 12, 13, they're about. Below 9, you tend to have, pockets of little ones, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then until this year, 2024, we never usually had many kids in the age groups over 14 years old. But now we actually do have quite a few of those, and we continue to get a lot of interest for those.
I think
As
that's an important age group, to have the older kids involved in a game like football.
Of course, I agree. And I think not only is it a part of our strategic plan, but we had was to be very deliberate and intentional at the start of 24 to create programs that would meet the needs of these kinds of kids, and thankfully we had some examples that we could have pointed to as references for the ones who are currently with us. So we have had 13 of our former students gaining scholarship opportunities to universities locally and internationally. And while we can't claim to take much credit for that, we feel very confident in our contribution, however small it might be deemed to be, because we emphasize a lot that the kids do their homework.
Yes.
We try to create a very strong relationship with the homes from which they come, so that we can, contribute in however way we can. Even if it is just in terms of encouragement or
Yes.
mentoring, it goes a far way. And I hold no reservation in saying that we have actually lost a few kids, because when we get the reports that they are not attending classes and we make it clear that if they're not going to class, they can't continue with us, then they make the choice that they don't want to go to class, so they're not going to come back to Genesis. And while we are disappointed in that choice, we are happy that what we stand for is actually recognized and respected.
Yes, I was planning to ask you that actually. And, I think in your doing that, you're setting a standard. And I think the kids who choose not to go to, not to go to classes and leave the academy, I think they'll look back and have some regrets.
I think so too, and on the flip side of that, we have quite a number of our kids who are like top scholars in school, or top of the class, so to speak, and we're talking about right across the different educational levels. So in the primary and prep schools, we have kids who are scholarship awardees, which stand to reason that they are top of the class. We have some kids going into high school who have also been awarded scholarships. My own son Amari is one of those. He's a PCN scholarship awardee and a Manchester Cooperative Credit Union bursary awardee. We have other high school students who are also on scholarships. And even outside of the scholarships, they are performing at the very top of their class. In the top five percentile, or top 10 percentile, and we are very proud of all of them. And that's something that we want to actually drive home, that
Yes.
it don't have to be either or. It can be both, and you can be successful at both. And we also recognize the fact that healthy bodies, fit bodies, also makes for healthy minds and fit minds that are better able to absorb information and to study for long
Yeah.
durations of time, and become more knowledgeable. So that's one of the messages that we try to enunciate to our parents and guardians whenever we have the opportunity to.
How does football help in a child's development?
Well, we just mentioned one just before now, in terms of just physical well-being,
Yes.
fitness, I know it impacts with the academic side of things. But one of the key pillars for us at Genesis is exposure. So our kids get the opportunity to play in tournaments locally. Most of the tournaments that they would play locally is in Kingston. And you'd be surprised that a number of them would have gone to Kingston for the first time, courtesy of Genesis.
Mm.
Since December last year, 2023, we have extended or expanded that kind of experience, our exposure, to now include international opportunities. So last year, we took 3 teams down to Trinidad, over in Tobago to be exact, at the Shockmore Youth Classics tournament. And our U11 teams went all the way to winning that championship down there, which we're extremely proud of that.
Very impressive.
Earlier this year, in July, we were in Minnesota with 4.5 teams. I say half teams because we didn't have enough girls to make a full girls team. So our girls played as guest players on other teams, and that also is a huge part of the experience and the exposure that they get. 3 of the girls play with a team from Iceland, so they
Oh,
know
wow.
know a few Icelandic words, and they have friends from Iceland. You know, all the kids, when you hear them talking about the experience, getting on an airplane for the first time, having their US visas, playing against people from Brazil and Ireland and Mexico, it's just something that you wish you had as a child growing up, and
Yes.
you feel a lot of satisfaction now that you're able to provide that kind of opportunity for the kids, and I think that kind of development is something that we don't measure a lot in terms of the social or the psychosocial side of the children's growth. But having been a classroom teacher for almost 30 years and a football coach for close enough to 30 as well, I have the perception or the ability to perceive these kinds of changes. So you can see a boy now walking with his shoulders more erect, or you
Yes.
hear him speak in a different way. You can hear a young lady saying, that I want more of this. I want to travel again. I want to become a professional. I want to go to college. Because they're rubbing shoulders with these kinds of people, and not just the people they grew up beside in their own communities, or that limited space that they are in, where they are not able to see anything else or see other people. So that
Yes.
is a big part of how we want to be recognized and how we believe we can contribute to the growth and development of the kids. So in a short and nutshell way, the football helps with the physical development. We focus heavily on the academic side, even if we are not doing it ourselves. And certainly we think we contribute significantly to the psychosocial development of the kids.
Yes. And with football, it's more than just kicking a ball. I wish a lot of people really understood it's a thinking game. I think you have to use your brain. I mean, the really great players who understand the game, know how to read the game. That takes a lot of mental skill. I mean, what's your opinion on that?
No, 100% agreed. In fact, we were having the same conversation. I think it was Tuesday afternoon at practice, and I was saying to the kids that, contrary to common belief, you have to be very brilliant to play football. You might not be
Yes.
academically brilliant, but you have to be brilliant, because you're constantly making decisions at very high speed, with in a very short period of time. Sometimes in fractions of a second, you have to be calculating a player coming to tackle you, where the ball is coming from, etc., etc. So it is, and so that's also another part of the development that which I failed to mention earlier. That you develop the cognitive side of them in terms of decision making. And one of the things that I missed saying earlier, when they travel, you know they get exposed to different types of players, different playing styles, different cultures, and the
Yes.
very perceptive ones are able to recognize this very quickly, and they will raise conversations with you about it. They'll ask questions about it, and sometimes they might not come to us as coaches and adults, but you'll hear them talking about it among themselves, which is very good, because that's also part of what we want them to be able to see, that football is not just played the way we coach at Genesis, but there are different ways in which it is played, both here in Jamaica as well as out there in the wider world.
Yes. It's great that they're getting this sort of exposure, definitely. Why did you become a coach?
That's a very interesting question. In truth and in fact, I don't know that there's a why. I think it is more like I was chosen. So my recollection goes back to when I was actually still in high school back in '93. Donald Davis, better known as Dundee, or Iman Black, was a coach for the team at school then. However, in about February '93, he had a meeting with all of us who would have played on the team the year before, and indicated that he's not sure he would be returning and continuing with the program when the season starts in September. And so just about in May, going June, he had a second meeting and said that, things have not changed, and he's not going to be around for the summer. And if things work out, he may come back, but if not, he wants the team to be prepared when the new coach comes in September, or if he's the one coming back. So after the meeting, he called me aside and he said, he called me Color. He said, Color, I want you to come over the house and pick up the equipment and stuff. So I said, Coach, why me? Because I wasn't the most senior player in the group or anything. And he said to me, he said, Color, all of them respect you. Anything you have to do them, go and do it, you know? And so pretty much for the entire summer 93, I was in charge of the training at Titchfield, doing the exercises that I would have done before with coach. And he came one evening, he rode up on the bike, and he said, just do this one exercise. And he showed us the exercise, something that would have done before, and he would go over it. And he gave me what we call coaching points. He gave me about 3 or 4 coaching points to make sure that we are emphasizing these. And we did that all summer until I think it was about a week and a half before the season started. He came back, works matters out with school, and he took over the team. And that team actually went unbeaten until we lost in the quarterfinal round against Glenmuir, 1-0 at GC Foster. So that kind of where I think my journey started. Then in 94, when Rene Simoes came to Jamaica, again, Coach Davis actually brought me to a coaching course down in St. Mary. Well, not brought me, he invited me to go to the course. I went the first day, and then the second day, that evening, I think it was a Friday evening, I came back to Port Antonio with him on the bike, and then the Saturday I took a bus and go back down again and stayed over the Saturday night, come back up the Sunday evening. So I think in a real way, my coaching journey is in large measure owed to the vision of Dundee. He was the one who recognized that I had this leadership that was able to earn the respect of my peers. And, I started there. And when I came back from university in 2001, though, Titchfield, my alma mater, we didn't play in the Doncaster Cup the year before, which in my own opinion was a great travesty. A lot of people don't know, but Titchfield was one of the first 4 schools to participate in the Doncaster Cup when it started in 1950. So there were only 4 schools that participated: Titchfield, Mannings, Cornwall, and Monroe College. Right. A very good friend of mine, Mr. Townsend, he told me that in those days they used to travel in truck backs to go to the matches down at Cornwall and up in Monroe and all the way in Mannings. So when we didn't participate in 2000, and when I came back, all the staff was saying that there was no plan to participate again in 2001. So I said, no, this can't be. I really had no intentions of becoming the coach or anything. But I went and had a conversation with the principal at the time, Captain, I think he's now Major Lincoln Taxter. And he said to me very simply, well, Edwards, if you think you can do it, let me know and I'll let you do it. And I started, lobbying people and trying to get the resources that could get us on. And eventually, Mr. Taxter said, okay, and we registered. And since that time, I've actually had no break at all in terms of coaching,
Wow.
So, yeah. So
it was meant to be. You were meant to be a coach.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. I can't see any other way of putting it.
Yeah, definitely.
It's
What
more
do you
like just answering the call.
Yeah, definitely. It just seems like this has been your calling. What do you enjoy most about coaching?
Aside from winning, it's really, really fulfilling when you see the players that you have worked with become grown men. Now I'm working with young ladies, I will say grown women as well. You see them becoming grown men and women, and actually, when we have the opportunity to reflect with them, they will point to the role that you played in them becoming the person that they are today. And also when you're actually coaching in a game and you see things work out exactly the way you're prepared for it, there's no greater joy in the actual moment than that. I mean, I remember the first time I had that feeling in 2002. We played against Glenmuir down at College of Agriculture in Portland, COA, Past Gardens. And we designed that attacking play involving three players. And we worked that to a T and scored from it. And I literally just fell on my back and just like stopped gleeing or gloating about it, you know. Um, of course, we have had many more since then. But in real way, I think the greatest satisfaction comes from the players becoming grown people. You know, some of them, I've had many of my former players now coaching, some going into refereeing, of course, in other areas of endeavor, you know, and one or two of them from time to time will make it publicly known or just call privately to say, Coach, thank you so very much. Really appreciate what you have done, you know. And then I think one last thing I'll add to that is when when players that you have worked with have have grown up and then take on similar roles to yourself where they are now working with other kids and are so invested in providing a real platform for those kids to become better human beings. I think that is one of the greatest joys that you can have from it.
That has to be very fulfilling.
Absolutely.
I have to ask you, when I was growing up, I wanted to play football. And back then, the girls didn't play. And, I remember it's like you're watching the boys play. And for us, it was like netball. I had no interest in that. But, it was just a very sad thing for me that I didn't get that opportunity to play. So, it's nice to see, you know, girls playing now. I really enjoy to watch the high standard at which the women are playing. It's really encouraging to see this progress. So I have to ask you, how are your students enthusiastic about participating in your program? And I say that because, it's so easy to take something for granted when it's always been there.
Mhm.
Me as a woman where I didn't have that opportunity, and now the girls today they have this opportunity. I would really like these young ladies to understand just how blessed they are that they get to play this beautiful game.
Well, Brie, you're so correct. And if I might just paint the picture a little bit, prefix the picture to say that, like, when I was going to school, we didn't have the opportunities that as males, we didn't have the opportunities that now exist in terms of like scholarships, football academies that allow you to travel the length and breadth of Jamaica, to travel outside of Jamaica. We didn't have it either,
Right.
but things and times change, and I think they change for the better, certainly in this particular regard. As for the young ladies, when we started Genesis, it was clear in our mandate that it was a co-ed organization. All right. We didn't make any concerted effort to incorporate girls until um, about 2022, 23. We started really pushing the agenda for girls. And a lot of that came from our own reggae girls, the senior reggae girls qualifying for the World Cup, having
Yes.
outstanding performances. And Khadija Shaw, who now plays for Manchester City, a young lady that I had the opportunity to meet and speak to a couple of times, especially when she was still in school in Jamaica at San
Yes.
Diego, representing the under 17 and under 20 reggae girls at the time, and I know a little bit of her backstory. And it's a really, really inspiring story. And now we believe at Genesis that we have the opportunity to create an environment that potentially in the future will have similar success stories to boast of. As we are speaking this afternoon here, we have had 9 of our young ladies being invited to the national setup. So far, we have had, I think, 2 or 3 of them actually representing the country. But we are extremely proud of that because there are not many organizations like ours that actually caters to the girls to the extent that we do. And so we are very happy that we are doing what we are doing. we are very pleased that we are able to provide that opportunity for young ladies in central Jamaica, Manchester in particular,
Yes.
but also Clarendon and St. Elizabeth. And we're looking forward to actually reaching more young ladies. As a matter of fact, after we were reflecting on our journey at the US Cup last month in Minnesota, one of the things that we spoke about is that we would 100% want to carry a full girls team next year, should we be able to go, and so that's something that we need to start targeting from now, because it will require some resources. It will require
Yes.
us players in as well.
Yes. I tell you, the the first time when the Jamaican women made it to the World Cup, I knew at that time they weren't contenders, but it was a beautiful thing to see. To come to their second World Cup and to actually see them as contenders. They played so well. I felt
Absolutely.
so proud of them. So, for what you're doing now, oh my gosh, it's very encouraging. And I'm hoping that there are young ladies out there who have been thinking about this who will reach out, because I think it's a great opportunity for the young women today, as well as the young men, of course.
No, but Brie, just like young girls will play. you
Yes.
know a lot of the trepidation really comes from the parents and the guardians, and some of them are really and truly well placed. Others are not so well placed, but it's the nature of life.
Yes.
But once we continue to convince people through, or to prove ourselves as a good environment for the young ladies to grow and develop in, I'm pretty sure more and more of them will come on board. And I just want to say very quickly that as we are speaking now, the opportunities for women in the game, or young ladies in the game, far exceed those that exist for the boys.
Yeah.
So like literally, I would say probably every month, if not every other month, I get a message from coaches asking about female players that they want to get for their teams. In fact, I got a message earlier this summer, a coach taking on a job in the US to establish a team for 2025, and a female team at a university. And he's already looking out for players to be a part of that project. So there's always opportunities as long as the girls do well in school and show the desired athletic ability. You know, coaches are out there who will take a chance on them, and if their commitment is good enough, then they can become professionals quite quickly.
That's exciting. I mean, oh my gosh, that is really exciting and very encouraging. My next question, Andrew, is what are some of the life skills that children learn from the beautiful game?
There's a lot. I think one of the most important ones that football teaches is coping with disappointments, because you don't always win, but you have
Yes.
to learn to deal with that. And from that, you have a plethora of other skills that comes from that, perseverance, persistence, um, you know, moving on, literally just moving on. You're not allowing yourself to be defined by the mistakes or the results that you have had from one moment in life, but just to know that you're going to get kicked down, you're going to lose games, but you get
Yeah.
up and you go again, and you will win and you lose. um Learning to be a part of a team is a very important one, and also learning to relish the success of others as much as you relish your own success, recognizing that your success is in large measure dependent on the support you get from others. And so while you receive that success, you have to also be prepared and willing to help others to be successful. You know, they learn a lot of social skills, interacting with people they never know before,
Yes.
forming new friendships, um, learning to cope with players who are at a better level than they are, or players who are at a lower level than they are, but who are a part of the team. how do they cope with these kinds of situations, and balancing school and football, as we mentioned many times before, and I don't want that
Yes.
to be lost any at all, you know, um, managing their time, learning to deal with matters such as rest and nutrition, recovery, injury prevention. Just a lot of things. I mean, I'm sure I'm not exhausting the list because the list will go on and on and on. But
Yes,
it's
I
very
agree.
important that the kids pick up on these skills, and sometimes they learn some of these skills vicariously, sometimes by deliberate intent, you know.
Yes.
But the environment that we are creating, the environment that we are building, is designed in such a way that these are always going to be available for the kids to learn from and to develop their own in their own time.
Does the Academy receive any private or public funding? How are you keeping afloat?
Ah, so for the most part, we are funded by the fees that parents pay and fundraising projects that we do. We do have a few partners that contribute to what we do, um, in however way they can. Public contributions, I assume that part to mean government, and then in that sense, the answer to that would be a no. Um, we are learning as we grow that we have to make ourselves more attractive to people who want to partner with us. We have to present ourselves better. So while we 100% need a lot of support, a lot much more than we are getting, we have also recognized that we have work to do in terms of making sure that we make the right pitch and we pitch to the right people, and that we prove ourselves constantly as being trustworthy, as being true to our cause, and so far, as old people would say, knock on wood, I think we have done a pretty good job at that. What we really need to do now is to get ourselves to the place where not only do people recognize what we are doing as something valuable to support, but that we can actually present it in a way that people really want to be a part of that. So just earlier today, I spent probably the better part of the day with a colleague of mine working on like some budgets, some proposals, and just planning the next year and a half, 2 years. Because I think the more time you give people to understand what you're doing, the better you are able to get help from them as well.
Yes. In what areas do you need the most help?
I mean, the simple answer would be financing, but we want to be able to better treat our coaches because they are the lifeblood of the organization, and that's one of the reasons why the organization become attractive, um, and sustainable. And so we want to be able to offer them something more that they will be able to give up more of their times to be a
Yeah.
part of what we do. Um, we're always in need of equipment, football boots, footballs, bibs, field markers, etc. Um, we we're hoping that we will be able to put everything together to, at the very least, start the project in 2026. We want to acquire our own space and start our own football field. We believe that it is possible. We believe it will be a big game changer for us, and that is very, very important because there are days when we are unable to train because the facility that we use is not ours and it is earmarked for something else.
Yes.
Um, when we started out at Manchester in 2016, Manchester High School, that is in 2016, we were only able to train on Saturdays because during the week, the space was always utilized by sports teams from the school. And so now at our current location at Brooks Park, we have been able to expand to include Tuesdays and Thursdays. And God's willing, in the future, we'll be at a space that is ours and we can do 7 days of the week, 24 hours of the day if we choose.
What are your hopes and dreams for the Academy?
You know, first and foremost, I hope that we'll be able to build out this organization to the point where my own kids and other kids who are part of the academy will want to keep it going when I am unable to do so. You know, I think that would be the biggest benefit. But in I mentioned just now, having our own facility would be a huge game changer, of course. Um, Getting players to becoming professionals, helping players on that journey would be huge for us. We have already had a few players, male and female, representing the country, and we'd like to continue to do that. We have had a couple of players moving on scholarships to university and colleges locally and internationally. We want to continue to do that. And I think, generally speaking, we want to be recognized as an organization that breeds success, that empowers young people, and that creates opportunities for young people to become the best version of themselves on the field of play, in the classroom, and in real life.
Yes. I can tell you when I fell in love with the beautiful game. I was a young girl. You're probably too young to know about George Best, but I remember the excitement when George Best, when he was playing, and the commentators would be so excited about the plays he would make. And that grabbed my attention. I'm surprised I didn't become a Man U supporter, honestly, because of how I love to watch George Best play. When did you fall in love with the beautiful game?
Ah, to put a specific date to it is kind of difficult. You know, I grew up at Love Lane in Port Antonio,
Hmm.
and just literally across my fence, there was a small space that we used to play ball every day. So as a child, I used to be able to, I was allowed to go to the fence and peep over and watch the bigger boys playing until I started getting the opportunity to go out and play. But the first World Cup that I actually watched was 1982. I think I was still a little too young to fully understand.
Yes.
But in 86, I really developed a real appreciation for the game then. And coincidentally, 86 was the year that I went to high school as well. So when you went to high school, now you got more opportunities to go and watch your own high school team play. And in those days, Docker Cup games at Carter Park was a big deal, you know.
Yes.
Um, a lot of excitement, the entire crowd. And being a Titchfield boy, you had the opportunity to walk behind or in front of the team, going down to Carter Park or jogging alongside them, and just
Yes.
literally admiring those guys, you know,
Yes.
Braxton, Tress, Caniclan, the rest of them, you know, Winston Summers, to name a few. And so I would say 86 is probably the real place that I really started to feel a passion and a love for the game. You know,
Yes.
yeah, run about that.
My favorite team is Arsenal.
Yeah,
And I will never forget Charlie George scoring the goal, sliding on his back. I don't even think I was 10 yet. But I remember that day. That's the day I became an Arsenal supporter. And one of the highlights of my life was going to see my team play. I went with your brother Richie and his wife Mel. That was one of the highlights of my life. I'm smiling now just thinking about it. I have to ask you, what is your favorite? Who's your favorite team?
well, guess what? As it relates to club football team, we have that in common. I'm an Arsenal guy through and through. Yeah, gonna for life, man.
Good taste. Good taste.
Yeah, you know, I grew up on the Thierry Henry and Dennis Bergkamp and Patrick Vieira, Freddie Lundberg and them guys, you know, Tony Adams and so on. But you know, I am one of those persons who tend to like to dive a little bit into history. So I just to look up Arsenal a little bit, and there's a lot of things about Arsenal that I really love. You know, it's one of those teams that um, you say represents the ghetto of London, so to speak, and the black people. And it's one of those teams that, to the best of my knowledge, has always had black players certainly since about the 1930s, 40s, there about has always had black players playing. Then there's other side where they are always at the forefront of innovations in the game. Going back to Chapman, Herbert Chapman, Arsene Wenger, and even now
Oh
Mikel
my God.
Arteta.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
those things make me really feel like I belong in that kind of space. You know, so I really love Arsenal, true and true. Internationally, I'm a Brazil guy. You know,
Really.
yeah.
I'm an England supporter.
Uh, well, I see you that I see you don't always like to win, eh?
Listen to you. It's crazy because every time, my brother and I, our hearts are broken every 4 years.
Oh yeah,
I think I was 3 years old the one time that England won the World Cup. And it's like every 4 years to have your heart broken over and over. It's tough, but I love England. Now, I do admire the Brazilian players. I will say that, but
yeah.
I'm an England supporter.
That's all right. Bria, see one of your viewers posting a question on Facebook here. Lucille Stennett.
Oh, yeah, she's asking what area of Jamaica is he wanting to have the playing field?
Yes, so that would be Mandeville, Manchester, where we are domiciled. And of course, it's football. For Americans, you guys call it soccer.
I hate that word. I really do. I'm sorry, but football. I get into arguments at my job all the time, and I'm telling them like it's not football. Like what you call soccer is the real football. And oh my gosh, we go back and forth. So yes, soccer. I just can't accept that name.
Yeah, man. You and I both.
Now, who is your favorite player? My favorite player of all time is Pele. Who's your favorite player?
Oh, well, we have that in common again. Thankfully, but I think he's the greatest player of all time. I mean,
I
like,
agree.
like all these modern day players, when they are talking about how great they are and how they created this move or display. There's a video that has gone viral probably about 3 years now, at least since I first saw it, showing pretty much all the modern skills being performed by Pele.
I've
Way
seen
back.
that video. I've seen it.
So, but hands down, I think he's the greatest to have ever played the game.
I
Um,
agree.
I have a soft spot for players who play in the central midfield role. So over time I've had quite a few of those players that I really, really admire. Cesc Fabregas is one of those players, Gilberto Silva, just picking on the Arsenal guys. But there's also um what's his name again? David Platt, the English guy who played in that position, Paul Gascoigne. Just to name a few of them that has played in that position. But if I go in all time, 100% hands down, Pele, bar none.
I definitely agree with you on that. My next question is, do you have a favorite coach who inspired you and you talked about this earlier, but this was a question I had prepared. So do you have a favorite coach who inspired you when you were a young player?
Yeah, well, I mean, as I said before, Dundee, aka Iman Black, aka Donald Davis, he was the coach. But there were other coaches at Titchfield at the time that um, would have been a very instrumental part of the foundation building for who I am as a coach for sure. May his soul continue to rest in peace. We talk about Orel Dunstan.
Oh
Um,
my gosh, he was a wonderful. He actually coached me. I was on the high school debate team, but I also was a debater for Plant House.
oh,
And
you're
I
a plant
remember
house
him.
guy too. Oh, yes,
Yeah,
sir.
I was, and he. I remember him coaching me. I
Yeah.
remember Mr. Dent. I was voted best speaker in my very first debate, and that was thanks to Mr. Dunstan.
Awesome, awesome. Great human being that was, man. Great, great man. So he would have been, I think he was a coach when we coached, when I played under 16, himself and Mr. Sewell. And then there was, we call him Tilly. Thompson is his surname. What's his first name again? Is it Lassie? I don't remember. It's Thompson. We call him Tilly. He was also a part of that team. So as a student, I would have been my brother Richard and a couple other friends. I can't remember some of them. The captain was Ricardo Emmings. We had Jermaine Spence, Starrett Russell, Ron Gutsmore, not Ron Gutsmore, Clyde Gutsmore, Richard Burton, Dwight Moore, aka Bowser, Andrew Byfield, Dwayne Anson. So that group of guys, Rowan Arn was a part of that team. We won the under 16 title back in 1991. First time that any school from Trelawney all the way around to St. Thomas was winning a schoolboy football title. And that was a huge achievement for us, and for the town of Port Antonio, for the school. I would have had the fortune to win it twice as coach with Titchfield as well. The under 16 title, that is. And I think I won it twice at States as well. So it's those gentlemen that I mentioned before, Mr. Sewell, Mr. Thompson, Mr. Dunstan, and of course, Dundee, they are the ones who laid the foundations for my coaching development. And I think there's no way at all that I can ever um, think of any coach that would have had a greater impact than Dundee himself. See Richie just posting that last man Thompson is still his correct name. Yeah.
Okay, and I see where he has Zidane in midfield.
Yeah, man.
When we went
Genius.
to see,
Genius.
when we went to see Arsenal play, Zidane was actually coaching Real Madrid, and that's who they played that day. So we got to see Zidane.
Nice, nice,
That
nice.
was, oh my gosh! Every time I think about that day, I mean, what it was such a brilliant day.
Uh,
Definitely a brilliant day.
Still hoping to get to watch them play live myself.
Yes, yes, yes. My next goal is to see them play in England, but it was a wonderful experience to sit amongst the British fans and just, oh my goodness, very very exciting. So
Of course.
my next question is, what would you like to say to your students? What would you like to say to them to encourage them to stick with it, to work hard at school, listen to their parents? What would you like to say to them?
Thank you for the opportunity here. It's just a matter of repeating a number of things that we have already said. First and foremost, at the top of the list is that it doesn't there's no need for choosing football or academics. There are there are so many students at Genesis who are proving night and day, every day of the week, that they are balancing football and academics and doing extremely well at both. And so we have those exemplars to show. You know, we want them to recognize and appreciate that Genesis is an environment that is catering to their growth and development, creating opportunities for them to excel and opportunities for them to be exposed to environments that they would not normally be exposed to if they were not a part of Genesis. All things being equal, we'll be going back to Tobago in December of this year. We're looking at the calendar for some other international opportunities um, inside of the United States of America, as well as in the broader CONCACAF region. Um, it is a dream that in 2026, when we celebrate our 10th year, we'll be able to take one team over to Spain. We do have some connections there at Valencia, and so that is something that we really want to do, for as part of our 2026 10-year anniversary celebration. Um, and there are just a lot of exciting times ahead for Genesis. And I think the kids who are a part of it now will certainly benefit from that. Excuse me. Those who are not a part of it, certainly if they do not become a part of it, they are going to be missing out on that. And I think for those persons who have looked on and seen what we are doing, I think they can testify to the fact that Genesis is creating um, a strong reputation for growing and or for helping the growth and development of kids in the central region of Jamaica, providing opportunities that would not normally be provided for them. If they are not in Kingston, And so we want that to be a part of the way that they view what we are doing, and continue to access these opportunities, and become the best versions of themselves.
How can you, for someone that's watching this and they'd like to help the academy, how can you be contacted by them?
Thank you for that, Bree. So our website, genesisfootballca.com. I don't know if you have the facility to type that in so that it might go into the chat. But it's Genesis,
Text it to me when we're done, and I'll
right?
put
So
it
it's
out on my wall.
once
Yes.
once you get to the website, it provides all our contact information, in terms of phone numbers, emails, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all of those things. You can reach us there. Yeah, and I'm available pretty much all day, anytime. If I miss a call or a message, I'll respond immediately. Generally speaking, somebody will respond to messages on our social media platform within 24 hours.
Now, do you think eventually there's a possibility of you doing like a franchise thing, like throughout the island? Is that like a hope of yours, or are you fine with the academy where it is? Because it sounds like it would be a great thing to be in other parishes.
100%. As a Portlander, that would be my first place to stop. And it's not particularly far away in terms of establishing the academy. But when you are where we are now in this fledgling developmental stage with limited resources, it kind of
Yes.
it kind of create some handicaps. But if we manage to come in to create the environment that we can access the resources, Portland for sure is definitely. In fact, our U12 goalkeeper is actually from Port Antonio.
Okay.
Yeah, he attended Port Antonio Primary and will be going to Teachfield for September. So he would have kept goal for us when we won in Trinidad last year. And hopefully, I spoke with his grandma already. She was very clear that if we're going back to Trinidad, then he's on board. So the door is open to other kids from that region for sure, who might be able to access that. I know it's a very long way to travel for training, but we always work that out the best way possible.
Yes.
And as you mentioned earlier, and something that we really, really want to do, it has always been a part of the long-term strategic planning. Just timing probably is not right at the moment, but maybe this opportunity will, create a kind of impetus to move things ahead a bit quicker. I know, as a fellow teachfielder like myself, there might be others on this call, and I see where Robbie Ferguson has been very active with the whole football infrastructure at Teachfield lately. And I just want to say that, like, if you look at the schools who have been winning the Dakar Cup and the Manning Cup, one of the things that they do have in common is their connections to academies. So like at JC, they are very strongly connected to Ballers Academy in Kingston. Um, Mona, who won the Manning Cup for the first time last year, is straight Phoenix Football Academy, and Clarendon College is Joga Bonita. So, there's reference to say to Robbie and the other Teachfield people that, if you think that this is something useful, then you could partner with Genesis and we could do something together. And if they don't want to partner, it's still all good. They can go ahead and push it, because once you have the opportunity presented for the kids, that is what is most important.
Yes. I would like you to speak about the importance of a game like football. It's sports, period, but especially football is my favorite sport. But you know what it does for young people as far as self esteem, what it does for them as far as keeping them on the straight and narrow path. You know, how important is football? Because I would like for the parents who do have hesitations, especially for their daughters to play. I remember reading an article talking about what sports does for young girls' self esteem. And I think go for both, young men and young women. So how important is a game of football for a young person?
Absolutely, very, very important. You know, absolutely, very, very important. I think one of the things that kids learn from training in an environment like Genesis is discipline. Discipline in terms of being at training regularly, on time, doing their homework before or after practice. All of that is just straight discipline. Packing your stuff up for tournaments. I mean, like my son turns 12 next month in September, and he's attending high schools for the first time, of course. And yesterday he had a practice game, and when we were in the car, he was like checking off: Do I have this? Do I have that? Do I have this? And I saw him washing him socks and him shoes from the day before. Making sure we don't do these things for him anymore as
Good.
parents. These are things that they learn to do once they are part of the sport. Um, as they grow older, they also learn to become more self-sufficient. Like I just described with Amari. But beyond that, sometimes they have to manage their own little budget. Mommy might give them $1,000, $5,000 to go on a tournament or something. They have to manage that. They have to keep it safe. They have to keep what they travel with. And of course, it doesn't work seamlessly. So I don't want that to become an impression that people might have out here, but it is part of how they grow and develop. You talk about self-esteem. For the most part, especially when they win, their confidence goes through the roof.
Yes.
And I can tell you, like, since we started taking the kids, let me just step back a bit. So when we made our first trip to Kingston as an academy, literally all of those kids were like shy. When I say shy, I mean really shy. A lot of trepidation, a lot of fear, excuse me, a lot of uncertainty about themselves and playing the game. That changed over time, you know, and they started to feel a lot more confident. Results started to get better, and that even boosted confidence a lot much more. When we went to Trinidad last year, it was just amazing. A lot of the kids, the parents who came, were going on a plane for the first time, and to make the trip more adventurous. When we got to Trinidad, we went to Tobago via the ferry, and that was another huge experience and exposure for them. Not so fun for them in the beginning when a lot of them puked on themselves,
Oh
but
gosh,
it's
yeah.
something that they talk about with glee, something that they remember and talk about for fun, but again, that gives them a lot of confidence, and then when they go into these environments in Trinidad and Minnesota, playing against strange people and seeing that they can compete, seeing that they are not less than, they are
Yes.
wearing good uniforms, they are eating at the same table, they would have arrived at the same tournament, probably on the same plane or the same ferry. They recognize that the world is there to be theirs. If they work hard, if they train consistently, they are disciplined, these are the rewards that life will give to them. And so they accept that. On the academic side, the fact that we stress that they do their homework, that they perform at school, that they and we have actually in the past, we haven't done it since COVID, but in the past we actually had a bursary to support kids with their academics. Something that we definitely will have to bring back on stream going forward. And so we have a vested interest in that. We try to have relationships with the schools that the kids come from. Not all of them, of course, because it's a large undertaking, but
Yes.
here we have clusters. It's a lot easier, and especially when you have relationships with teachers or principals or people in the PTA, then you have an opportunity to know what is happening with them at school, and you can then intervene as much as you possibly can. And at Genesis, we really try to see things in a kind of triangular like this. So at the very top of the pyramid here is where the child is. In one corner, we have Genesis. In the other corner, at the base, we have the parent or the home. And we try to have the base being in tandem so that the player can become the best version of him or herself at the top. At training, we have some exercises that we do. For example, we have what we call like a session captain, and at the end of the session, the captain has to give a little evaluation of the session, give feedback to members of his or her team, and that helps them with public speaking, having the confidence to speak in front of a group. Um, Occasionally one or two of them get the opportunity to speak on camera like we are now, or on when we have tournaments or we attend tournaments, because we host our own tournaments, we go to other tournaments. Sometimes they are interviewed by radio or TV, or other podcast producers, so they get that kind of experience and exposure as well. And I'm sure I'm missing out on a few things, but generally speaking, we are very, very confident that we are providing an environment that helps kids to grow, not just as football players, not just in terms of academics, but just as good people, good citizens.
Yes. Yes. I tell you, I really enjoyed this interview, and I am so thankful that you came on tonight. And I'd like to ask you, do you have any closing thoughts that you would like to share with the viewers?
Bree, before we get to that, let me just express my personal appreciation for you providing this opportunity. And of course, I have to extend that appreciation on behalf of the entire Genesis family, because this is a platform that will bring our message across the world, certainly to your audience. And we want to thank those who are on the call right now, those who saw the message and found it necessary or believe in it so that they would have shared it to invite other people on the call. We want to thank you for that. And we thank the persons who contributed their questions and their comments. In terms of a passing comment, I just like to say that our country today, Jamaica, um, is in a very bad place as it relates to crime and violence and deviant behaviors. Last week, Sunday, this evening, this time, that is 8 or 9 persons lost their lives violently in Clarendon, one of the parishes that we serve. There's another 11 people still in hospital, trying to recover from gunshot wounds. And the solution or solutions to these problems are not singular. As a child growing up, we used to hear that it takes a village to raise a child.
Yes.
And so I remember as a young boy, when I would try to cross the line, there were people in the community who would always, bring you back, or at least report you, to say that, hey, we saw Andrew at this place, he should not have been, and so on.
Yes.
I say all of that a little bit emotionally to say that at Genesis, we recognize our role and responsibility in creating an environment, as our 2030 vision says, where people can do business and raise families. We recognize our role. And as small as it might be, we believe that if we positively affect the kids that come to Genesis to the extent that they respect life and value life and and and, and um and want to be good citizens, then we would have been contributing significantly to that. And so, having said all of that, I want to invite anyone on this call who share in our dream, in our vision, you know, to come forward and assist in what we are doing. And it's not always about money. I know that is our greatest need, but sometimes ideas and good thoughts help to generate that funding just the same. You know, we want help with mentoring our kids as well. You know, there's a young man who just graduated from university in the States. He wasn't a Genesis youngster, but his story is a real inspiration. He wasn't a sparky in school, so to speak. He wasn't a brilliant academic, but he did well enough to have gotten himself a scholarship to the US. And a lot of that was down to the support he got from a very good friend of mine, a past student of Manchester High School, Maureen. You know, she adopted him, literally adopted him, provided for all his needs, financially and otherwise, got him academic support, the full gamut. And
Yes.
so, if somebody is on the call who might have that desire, then we can put you onto a young boy or a young girl who would need that kind of support. Somebody who you can talk to on the phone from time to time to make sure that they are doing what they should be doing, providing whatever needs they might have. And for the broader organization, we want to continue to grow and develop, so that we can reach more kids and have this positive impact on more of the kids. And lastly, I would say that for every child that we affect positively, we also affect their parents and their extended family likewise.
Yes. Yes. And think about it. When a younger sibling watches an older sibling playing, I think that encourages
Or
the
vice
younger
versa.
sibling. I think that's like you and your brother, right? The older siblings playing, encouraging the younger. I mean, I think it's just a very positive thing. It's a win-win situation.
Absolutely. Bree, I mean, listen, our website now was created in part by a 15-year-old young man. So he worked alongside the main developer, a gentleman named Ricardo Gaudi. But in terms of managing and maintaining the website, um, White is doing that almost by himself right now. Just 15 years old, he's a student at Monroe College, and he's our administrator at Genesis right now. We have 3 former Genesis players who are trained referees refereeing the game now in Manchester. And so it's not just about those who play. Like when we have our tournaments are the only ones in Jamaica that don't use trained referees only. So we use alongside what you would call trainee referees or wannabe referees. And
Yes.
and the intention behind that, excuse me, is that we don't want to just look at players, because players cannot develop in a vacuum.
Yes.
They need to have referees, administrators, etc., etc. And so what we are doing at Genesis is not just about playing the game, but in terms of the holistic and broader development of kids generally. We have had kids who came and helped and assisted us along the journey with our social media, with videography and photography and that kind of stuff, volunteers at our tournaments. So it's not just the players that we affect, literally. We are affecting the business community here in Manchester as well, even though maybe not at a level that is causing people to look up and say, wow, just yet. But as our international tournament grow, we this
Yes.
year in May, we had 6 teams from Trinidad participate in our tournament. And God's willing, next year we will double that number to include teams from North America as well, Central America. And as that grows, our impact on the business community of Manchester in terms of bringing in dollars to their coffers will also grow. You know,
That is brilliant. I just would like to thank you for what you're doing for the youth. Thank you for being an ambassador for the beautiful game. I just appreciate everything that you're doing. And like I said, please feel free to reach out whenever you want to come back on to, give us updates on how you guys are doing.
no, for sure, we'll definitely do. Next time we do it, for sure, I think I'd like to have a couple of players on, maybe
You're
appearing.
welcome to do that. You're
Because I
definitely
mean,
welcome to do
when
that.
yeah, because when the players tell their own story, I think it has a greater impact and reach than when it comes from someone like myself. And I'm
Yes.
pretty sure there are 1 or 2 players out there who will be confident enough and more than willing to do it.
Yes, yes. And I would just like to say to the viewers, I can vouch for Andrew. I'm not going to have anyone on this show that is not legit. He is the real deal. And, as one person, he can only do but so much. He needs the support of the community. So I would like to challenge the viewers, for those who attended Titchfield, for those who love the game. If you can help in any way, and as he said, it's not all about finances, in any way, shape, or form, if you believe you can help this team, please feel free to reach out to Andrew. Stephanie, I will make sure I get the website address and pass it on to you. I will definitely do that. Stephanie's asking for the website address.
Yeah, I think I have the opportunity to send a message. So
Okay,
I,
yeah, put it in if you can.
well, it's a private chat, so I think that might have come to
Okay,
you.
okay, let me type it in here. I see it
Yes,
here.
it's genesisfootballca.com.
I can see it in the private chat, so
Okay, cool. Oh, Bree, one of the things that we really want to do as well, we want to form an association with a charity in the States.
okay.
Um, we did some research recently and found out that um, a charity in the States could actually help us to raise funding. So long as there is some kind of mutual connection. I know Richard would be better placed than myself to enunciate that. But suffice to say that if there's a charity in the States that would want to support our work, they could do so. You know, uh,
Okay.
yeah. So like I think they call it a 501c3. That's what it's called here.
I'm not sure. I don't know a whole lot about that, but I can see what I can find out.
Yeah, yeah.
And Stephanie, I did type in the website address. So for those who are watching, or if you watch the replay, feel free to post your questions and comments. I'll get them to Andrew. And once again, Andrew, thank you so much. And I'd love for you to come back with some of the kids as you suggested earlier.
Sure. We'll discuss that. I think maybe if we do it um, just before school, or maybe when school starts, it probably, yeah. Since it's a Sunday, we could do it one Sunday evening after school starts back. I think that might be a good, good,
Okay, okay,
good.
just check, let me know the date, and we'll make it happen. We'll definitely make that happen. So once again, thank you so much. And to all the viewers that tuned in, thank you so much. And I'm wishing everyone a blessed week. Stephanie saying I don't see it yet, but okay, Stephanie, it'll be there. But if you don't see it, I will definitely send that to you. I'll send it to you.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you
take
so very
care,
much, Brie.
everyone.
God
Take
bless.
care. Take care. God bless. Take care, everyone.